Hello, and welcome to Starblood Chronicles, where we talk about everything within and under the stars. I'm your host, Dragonpaw. Hello, Starseeds. It's Dragonpaw. Welcome to episode 3. I'm going to do a little something special at the end of this episode and give you one of my actual experiences with the divine. I've never told anybody this story, but it has to do with me surviving a huge car accident. Now, the first story is coming from a younger friend of mine, or in my culture, we call it a little homie. He tells me that how a prayer changed his life for the better. Then after that, I have a woman, Savannah. She gave me two stories. One when she was young, dabbling in the Ouija board. The second one, we can just say she received a phone call from the other side. So thanks for being here and happy listening. So I already have a girlfriend, and I had gotten these fraudulent charges thrown at me where some other girl had said I was doing some things to her that were untrue. Like if I was stalking her or just things that I knew the girl, but none of this ever happened. And so the police came. They took me in. They tried to book me just for that so that they could get me for other stuff. They knew I was affiliated and they just wanted to lock me up. And so I was sitting in the county because the girl kind of stopped even communicating with the cops. And so I was just stuck there. Well, who knows what they were trying to do. They probably were looking for any reason to keep me and get me for something else, for something to stick on me. And I have my date. My date comes up, and I gotta go to court. And so I get there, and it turns out the DA had to postpone it. So they want me to go sit back in the county for who knows how much longer. And I'm thinking they're building a bigger case to keep me in. And so I call my mom, and I break down on the phone, and I tell her, Mom, I don't know what they're going to do or how long they're going to keep me here, but I don't know if I'm going to get out. And she just tells me, Mijo, at this point, all you can do is pray. Speak your heart out and let the universe know how you feel. And I just had my head down, and I'm like, I don't know, because I never even believed in anything, man. I had some of my family members that do brujeria and some dark shit, but I actually listened to her. Later that night, I'm back in my bunk, and I just start, I guess it's praying, or I was just right there on my knees. I started crying, and I just called out, if you're real, I didn't even know what I was talking to. All I said was, if you are real, would you please help me get out of here? I didn't do any of this. If it were true, I wouldn't be out right here crying and calling to you. So please just hear me out. And then the next day, I didn't think anything was going to come from it. It felt good to just to let it out, but in the morning they open the cell and they tell me that all the charges have been dropped. And all I could think of is it was because of a higher power. I was in the 7th grade when all this happened. I was with my older sister and her 2 friends. We were just hanging around and started telling some spooky stories. Girl fun. When one of the older girls stated that she knew how to draw a spirit board and we should make one before her dad came back home. I was probably the youngest one there and have never heard of a Ouija. I just was thinking it was some sort of a game at the time. The girl grabbed the sheet of paper and started drawing the alphabet on it. She also had yes, no, and a goodbye on it. I wasn't sure how it worked until she took off one of her earrings. And it was the early 80s, so this was a big hoop earring. And right away, we got dark messages like kill, and a couple of us even got pushed by some invisible force. And this was only about 10 minutes into it when we heard her dad pull up. So we kind of freaked out, tossed it under the couch, and acted like we were just hanging out. Mind you, the windows and the doors weren't opening. They were unlocked, but they weren't opening, so we couldn't even escape until her father got home. And that's when everything stopped. When we threw it under the couch, there was one giant mistake we made, and that was we all forgot to say goodbye on the Ouija board. Now, my sister's friends had 2 homes, both in Central California. One was their father's and one was their mother's, about 30 to 40 minutes away. A couple of weeks after the first incident, we went to hang out with them again. This time at the mom's house. Once again, the eldest sister decided to bring out the board to see how it would react in a different place. Since their mother was out and it was the 4 of us alone, we just decided to play. Not much went down with the board this time. It moved a little bit, but we never got a full answer to anything. So we were just like, okay, something's not working. So we put it away and forgot about it. We also forgot to say goodbye a second time. By this time, their dad had already gotten home, so we all went to bed. I want to say it was around 2 or 3 a.m. when I felt like I was shaken awake. Well, I know I was awake, but I couldn't talk. I couldn't scream. I couldn't get up. I was flailing, fighting against something. This must have woken up the rest of the girls because I could see them with scared faces trying to calm me down. Not my sister, but the oldest girl took off for a few seconds. and then came running back in with a rosario. When she tried to place it over my head, I began to swing and kick at her. I had this strength that allowed me to get her off a couple times. Let's just say she was not a small girl, but I was tiny, tiny for my age even now. The whole time I could hear them, but couldn't respond. It felt like I could only answer them in my head. They began to pray as a last resort, and that's when I finally regained my bodily functions and I was able to speak. From there, we all ran to the mother's room explaining what had happened, and her response was a little weird. She actually said, "Well, maybe the spirit wants to help or needs something." None of us expected that. We did not want to do that again, but she was the adult, so we did. Before we got it out, all I could tell them were little snippets of what I was seeing and hearing. It said it's a girl that died in the area. Then their mom said, if she tells us her story, maybe she'll leave. And as soon as I said, okay, bam, I fell into a deep sleep. I seemed like I was in a different space, like a different realm, an empty, void-like place. With every question they asked, I started to get answers that I could see like a projector or like a movie screen of a different era, a different time and space. When all of a sudden, I legit see a girl that looks to be in her 20s get up on a chair and hang herself in the middle of the room. I then see myself on the couch in a trance with the girls all around me asking me questions. I was having what I now know to be an out-of-body experience. This spirit jumped me and pushed my spirit out of my own body. Everyone kept telling me to give it more time, and I remember saying, no, no, no. It seemed like it wasn't going to let me back in if I gave it more time. So, I took a leap of faith, pun intended, back into my body, and it felt like a tug of war for the space in my own body. Then, in a panic, my sister yells, "Run to the light!" I think she got it from a movie or something. Some of them were praying too. And what was crazy about this part was that I did see a light. But to get to it, I would have to run through this tunnel full of deformed looking gray shadows. Big ones, small, and almost blob-like beings. So, I take off towards the light, but at the same time, these beings start to grab onto me, saying, "Help! Help me!" As if they wanted to escape the place they were stuck in. But I kept on running. Once I entered the light, I was back in my body. I took like a giant breath, like I could finally breathe good again. And I was back on the couch. The end. Story number 2, the phone call. I was dating this guy, Jay, and he had a cousin, Manuel, that was into some bad stuff, like organized crime. He caused people a lot of pain and shed a lot of blood as an enforcer once he got out of prison. So Manuel had just got out after doing about 15 years at Pelican Bay. This is when he became the enforcer. But when it came to his family, he was a very loving person. Everything else was just business. So, anyway, he had a girlfriend and she was pregnant at this time with his first child. He truly trusted her and couldn't wait for his baby to be born. She would even be his driver on some occasions. But this particular time he had went on a job alone. On this night, he had to pick up a package and bring it back home. And he always returned home. He wasn't the type to stay at someone's house or get a motel if it was late. He always returned home. Later in the night, Manuel's girlfriend starts to get worried because he hasn't came home yet. So she began calling everyone, asking if they had seen him, but no one had any answers for her. The next day, she reports him missing to the police. Another day goes by and still no word from anyone or him. The car he drove had the OnStar app, and once she was given access to the account, she could at least try to locate the car. Later that same night, I was with his cousin, my boyfriend, Jay, at the time, and we had gone to bed without any information of him or the car's location. Then, in the middle of the night, our house phone rings, back when we all had landlines. The ring scared me out of bed. As soon as I answered it, I heard crackling static. I'm just repeating myself, saying, "Hello? Hello? Hello?" All I'm hearing is static at this time, so I hang it up. And as I'm beginning to fall back to sleep, it rings again. This time, I can hear static and a voice that sounds far away. I can barely make it out that it's saying my name. And right then, I knew it was Manuel. It's faint, but I can hear him yelling, "Help! Savannah! Help me! Please!" But his voice kept getting farther and farther away every second. It was as if he was being dragged away. Then the line cuts off. Now Jay is staring at me. He's awake at this point, and he's asking me, "Was that him? Where is he?" But all I remember saying is, "He's dead. He's gone." Jay says, "What? Don't say that," and starts crying right there in the bed. The next day, it was confirmed when they found the car and his body riddled with bullets, hidden in a parking structure. It all happened in 2001. It was a party that I had thrown for one of my friends who was going into the military. So he was going to leave town. So we had a little garage, abandoned studio-like room. Everyone was having fun. We were drinking and smoking. Then later on that night, the beer was getting low, and me and a couple friends decided to go get more. Now, I didn't really have to go since I was the host, of the party. But this was meant to happen, so I chose to go. There are 1, 2, 3 in the cab of a F-250 truck. And then one of the homies who didn't fit was in the bed of the truck, just going for the ride. So we're driving, laughing, and we get to the store. As we are pulling into the store, a car kind of jets out in front of us, honks, and turns away up towards this mountainous area. My friends and I didn't like that. So we turned fast and pursued this car full of people. As we're driving, I'm telling you, this road was very, very narrow, extremely windy, and dark. It was no longer a residential area. It was going up toward a mountain. So all the only lights we had were their rear headlights and our headlights. So we're chasing them. There's weapons involved. There's things being said, what we're going to do. Then the driver of the car that I'm in, or the truck, speeds around this very narrow road. If you tip, you're gonna flip down the mountain or into some sort of crevice. So he maneuvers around them skillfully enough, despite how much we were partaking in. And he forces them to stop because there's nowhere to go. So he's blocking the road with his big, brand new F-250 truck. We all jump out because we're all hoodlums at this time in my life. And we don't run towards the car, but we slowly walk up to it, trying to get a feel for who's in it. As we're doing this, that car backs out just enough, maneuvers around us, and with full power, full throttle, they go right through the open door of the driver's side of the truck. And that door is gone. They take it with them. And boom, they get around us. And the driver of his new truck did not like that either. So we all hop back in. Not much time to worry about a seatbelt. And then we still have a friend in the bed of the truck, don't forget that. So we're chasing them again, this time hotter, angrier, and we're going faster. All I remember after that is we're coming up to a huge bend in the road with a cement wall and a little yellow sign that says 15 miles per hour. Boom. I black out. I have no recollection what happened during the crash until I wake up and my head is stuck under a F-250 truck. Now, here, I open my eyes to see half of the ground and half of a broken smoky truck above my face. Smoke is everywhere, glass is everywhere, and warm liquid is just draining out of my head, down my neck, over my eyes, and it's pure confusion on my part. No one is around me except for the one smart guy to my right who actually put his seatbelt on. And he's hanging upside down looking at me, and I'm looking up. I'm like, oh, damn. And so he looks back at me and he unbuckles his seatbelt and falls right down. So the truck is upside down and I'm under it, and he falls back to the ground after undoing his seatbelt, and he climbs out of his door, which was still there and working. As for the other two guys, I don't know at this point where they are. So the guy on the right side that had the seatbelt on, he's looking around and he's just cursing up a storm. He doesn't know who's dead, who's not. I hear in the distance aches and pains from the other passengers, like groans. And it's darkness all around us. And so I call his name. I'm telling him, hey, lift up the truck. Lift it up. I can get out. I can squeeze out. Pick it up. And so he's like, he doesn't know what else to do because there's no one around. There's no one on the road. It's just us. And he actually tries to deadlift this truck up. And as he's doing it, my head is completely stuck to all the glass and the metal. And it starts pulling my head up and down, up, as he's trying to lift it. And there's pain, but not really. It's really, I'm in shock, I think. My body goes into shock. But I'm telling him, don't leave. Don't fucking leave. And as I'm telling him to get back here, me and him both we see two headlights coming from kind of a distance and at a higher level because we're down in a ravine. And so he takes off for it, and I panic and say, don't leave. But he left, which was the smart thing to do. I don't know what's going on. And so he actually does stop the car, and they call for the ambulance. So what seemed like hours was really only about 30 minutes until the fire truck finally pulls up, and I'm so down in a ditch area that they can't even get enough guys there to lift the truck. So they have a machine that the fire truck pulls out like a long whip, but it's like a rebar. It's all metal, and they wrap it around the truck, and then they crank it back, and that lifts up the truck off of me. And there's at least 4 firemen and paramedics that can get me on a stretcher where they can climb up the hill that we fell down, and finally place me into the ambulance. And I'm awake during that whole time, and I didn't really feel any pain. I was just kind of confused. Later on, I find out that when we all crashed, the driver, since he had no door of protection, he flew out. And the truck might have rolled over his torso at some point. And he was the one in pain, screaming from far off. And then the homie in the bed of the truck, actually saw the wall that we were going to crash in, and he dove out head first. The crazy part is, every one of us survived. But after my brush with death, I changed. My sisters even have told me that I don't see the world the same way. This is part 2 to Dragon Paul's brush with death. Like I said, people in my family have noticed that I've become more attracted to the spiritual, and there are reasons for it, because not only have I seen things, but I feel and hear things. So I go to a psychic. Her name is Vanessa. She's actually very accurate, and I trust her enough to say that. And for so long, for years after the car accident, I'm thinking I had a near-death experience. I thought I actually died and was given a chance to come back. Turns out, according to the psychic medium Vanessa, I didn't die. I was supposed to, in a way, but I was saved. She says, "You did not die that night. You were protected." And I said, "Huh?" She says, "You have a female protector." And then I said, "Huh?" again. And she goes, "Yeah. It's a 6th-dimensional being. I'm seeing the color purple. She cushioned your crash." And then I said, "What?" And then she says, "She's showing me that as you were flying through the air or tumbling," mind you, the psychic does not know about my accident at all. This is what she's being shown while I'm speaking with her. She says it looks like a lavender bubble or smoke or flame-like was placed around your head, shoulders, and neck area. Now let me just reiterate one more time. She has no idea about my truck accident. And that's exactly where all my wounds were. They was my head, my ears, one of them completely sliced off, but it was sewed back on. And so she continues to say how and in what manner she placed me down, and the bubble protected me from the truck's force, because that should have crushed my skull. And as she's finishing up to go to another subject, I stop her and I say, wait. Can you give me a name of this protector of mine? She goes, yeah, I can ask. So she asks in her head, I guess, because it was silent. And she comes back and says, Archangel Haniel. Yeah, she's your primary protector. And I'm silent. I have no words. But it makes all the sense in the world to me. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this style I went with this time. It was more like first person, where I told it from their shoes, because some of these situations, you can't really give too much detail about the person, and they don't want to put their voices out either on a podcast. So yeah, I told all of their stories and my own. So I hope you really enjoyed it. If you guys want to look up that psychic I was telling you about, she's on YouTube. You could book an appointment with her. Vanessa Crystal Consciousness. She's really good at what she does. She can look up your Akashic records, or even tell you one of your past lives. So I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday and didn't get too 420'd out. Until next time, Star Seeds, stay up.